Okay, let's start it again. um, Hello, I am Jessica Wright, and I'm here to do this open discussion about being over 30 and child free. And then we do have an ACSW in the house with Shonda Watson. It'll be here for emotional support and to be able to provide any additional information. If you're watching tonight, please make sure that you are commenting on the Jesting and Things page. So if you're not following me there, follow me there. JESTING and Things on Facebook, and let us know what you're thinking. If you hear some nuggets or some gems, you want to snap your fingers or clap or whatever. More than anything, we want to make sure that we're being supportive of the ladies that are here tonight having this candid conversation. We have some amazing, intelligent, talented ladies that are on the panel tonight that are going to be having this open discussion again about their personal lives. So again, we want to make sure that we're supportive and respect everyone that is decided to share tonight. And also, again, I want to reiterate that we are live. So we are live not only on Facebook, two different ways. We are also live on Clubhouse, and we're excited that people get the opportunity to be able to be a part of the conversation. So if you have contributions, if you have things you'd like to say, let us know there. Make your comments um, on Facebook on the Jesting and Things page. I see we already have people that are ready, that have jumped in and are ready to I guess be able to dig into what it is that we're going to be talking about tonight. And I'm excited. Is anybody else excited? I'm excited. I'm gonna turn down my brightness just a little bit because my lighting won't let me be great. But as we're getting into this, just to give you a little bit about myself. Now, even though I'm moderating this discussion, I am not over 30 and child free. I am definitely over 30, number one, but I am not child free. I had my daughter at the age of, sorry, y'all, 21. And I was definitely not ready for that situation. I was very young, but I feel like being a mother changed my life by slowing me down. I had a lot of things happening, a lot of things going on, and but it slowed me down in a lot of ways, so that I wasn't out there in the streets or for the streets or however you want to say it these days. Um, but I have a lot of friends who did not choose to have children for whatever reason as early as I did. And some people I knew had kids in high school or at 18. So for me, it even seemed like 21 was a little late compared to some people that I knew that had two or three kids by the time they were 21 or 22. Um, but I did experience from that point, a lot of people saying, well, when are you going to have another one? She needs a brother or sister. Why is it? And it's the same type of situation where people assume agency over your choices and they're saying, hey, you can just, have another one. No significant other, let alone a husband to speak of, if that's your choice. And for me, it was, I wanted to be married. I was married previously and I wanted to be married again. And I felt like they were robbing me of the option of having it because I just need to hurry up and have some more kids. So one wasn't enough. And I feel like we're in a society where we're consumers and we consume everything for a number of reasons. And it's enough is never enough, but you're not like, hey, have a kid and then I'll pay for it. I'll make sure they're going to college. I'll make sure they eat every day. I'll be up for the 4 a.m. feedings. I'll change diapers. You're just like, your mama needs some grandbabies. Yeah, that's not gonna fly for me. Man, get out of here. Anyway, I am super excited that folks are here and that they're discussing. So, like I said, we have several people that are listening from different platforms. So, again, we're live on Facebook on my personal page, Jessica Wright. Talk One. We are also on live on Jesting and Things. We are live on Instagram, Jesting and Things One, and we are live on Clubhouse on Jesting and Things, and live on YouTube. So we got plenty of places to watch. So do your thing, comment. I'll try to make sure that I try to be aware of the comments. If you want to comment on Facebook, it has to be on the Jesting and Things page. And I've just been chattering just to kind of give people a chance to know that we're online. Again, thank you to the amazing ladies that are a part of this discussion tonight. And we're going to start adding them to the feed so we can get this thing started. Yes? Yes. Okay. So first up, I'm going to go ahead and add Miss Shonda Watson, ACSW, and just get a little bit from her, and then we'll add accordingly after that. Hello, Miss Shonda.
Hey, Jess, how are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Oh,
Good to be
yay.
here. Good to be here. I'm excited
Oh,
about this conversation.
Me too. And I feel like it's a relevant one because, again, we want to encourage women to have agency over their beings, their bodies. And I feel like a lot of times we impose, and I am guilty of it, saying to my younger cousins and my girlfriends or whoever in my life, women, girl, you can go ahead and get that man a baby. Or, girl, you need to go ahead and pop one out. Time's wasting. You only got so many eggs and things like that, which is rude, inappropriate. Then again, so I'm checking myself first before I say anything to anyone else. I'm checking Jess first, so we can start there, guys. Um, so in doing that, I want to give myself an opportunity to correct this, to right this wrong, because I do feel like there's a lot of undue pressure, and you'll end up putting yourself in situations where you don't feel comfortable. So I have you here tonight as our, our beacon of light, as our an opportunity to be able to referee some things and be able to kind of deal with. And so, feel free to, interject and say, hey, this is a great place for us to ground or breathe or, do whatever, just so that we feel supported throughout this entire conversation.
Absolutely.
Okay. All
Let me,
right.
can I just say this one thing to you?
Absolutely. Yes.
When we pass along the things that we've been taught and the things that have worked for those before us and that work for us, it's okay to own if it worked for you or if that's the reason why you did it, and just no pressure explain all of your lessons that you got from it to the person that you're talking to. Like, that's where I really want to come from when we talk to, younger people or just other women who don't have children.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's vital. And I feel like I'm excited about the contributions that are going to be made tonight. I feel like this is a
Yeah.
necessary conversation and
Absolutely.
one that has not been had enough, especially among Black women.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on purpose that this is a panel full of Black women, but it's a necessary conversation. I'm glad we're having the conversation with whoever
I
on
agree.
purpose. So let's dive in. I'm just going to add all the ladies. I'm starting with Sapphire, then we have Tacey, then we have Andrea. So let's start with Sapphire. Just, give us your name and just a little bit about yourself. Sapphire, you're mute there. Uh-oh. I'm trying to unmute you, Sapphire. Okay.
Here, I'll do it. There we go.
There we go. There we go.
Hi, how are you guys doing? I'm Sapphire. I'm a recording artist, model, and I also own a clothing line. I live in Los Angeles, California. I'm 34 years old, and I don't have any kids. And, to a lot of people, that's always a subject when they meet me, especially in my unique state. I have been married 3 times. So I don't want to get into all of that, but being married and everything and not having kids and, my age is just like always, you know, something that people want to discuss. Like, why don't you have kids yet, girl? Or my mom even, she's like, I guess I won't ever have any grandchildren. I just need to, just accept that you just want to live your life and this and this. It's like, a lot of times people don't know what's really going on with you. I did suffer. Well, I don't want to say did, but I suffered from PCOS for one. So I never was even trying to have any children, first of all. So I don't even really know if I was struggling with fertility or not, because it was never desired, because I have my goals that I'm trying to reach as far as my career. But, that's one factor. So if that is something, that's just so insensitive to, be constantly pressured by anyone you meet when they see, like, that you have a significant other or you're a certain age. They don't have any children and they want to question that, like feeling so freely, like it's just something that you can discuss. And I just be like, people have so much audacity, but, I just started getting used to it because I've been hearing it now for a while. Luckily for me, I've like taken some herbal steps and, gotten into my health and things like that. And I've been able to, manage my PCOS very well to where I'm, ovulating every month, everything like that. But still, it's just like, I'm still not making the choice to have children yet, because there's a lot of things I want to accomplish. And there's just certain things that I don't want, my children to have to necessarily go through that I did, like not growing up with my father or, things like that. So, all those things, I take into consideration. So when people, say things like that, it does kind of become a little, because, you never know what people have going on in their life.
Definitely.
Definitely.
And I know that
And
it's
I
a
know that
hard
it's a hard
conversation, a hard conversation to have where, again, people are like inflicting and don't know, and you don't want to say, hey, I have PCOS or I have all these situations. You shouldn't have to run down a laundry list of things that are going on personally just so you can justify why you haven't made certain life choices to appease other people. Uh, I'm excited. Thank you for being here. Let's jump into Miss Andrea Jackson.
Oh, hi. Sorry about that. Okay, so I am Andrea Jackson. I'm actually 39, and I don't have any children as of yet. Have not been married. I was engaged once, um, but I haven't been married. But I don't have any children. And the primary reason for that, for me, was I think it has a lot to do with my upbringing. Um, My mom struggled a lot with 3 kids on her own. Our dad left when I was about 9, and my mom. I mean, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I feel like she did an excellent job working with what she had. But I just decided, and my sisters did too, because none of us have kids at this point. And I'm the oldest. So we just decided, and I know for me personally, it was just a thing where I didn't want to have to struggle. Um, my decision is if I'm going to have kids, I'm going to be married. I'm going to be with somebody who is going to take care of their kids. And even if it doesn't work out, it'll still be somebody who's going to, do what they need to do as a father. Because I don't want to have to struggle. I I know my mom, like I said, she pulled it all together with 3. But I know friends of mine, kind of just like what you said, Jess, people I knew in high school, or not, yeah, in high school, they had kids 16, 17, and they got 4 or 5. And I was like, I don't want to have to deal with that. But, I want to wait and, just kind of let things play out, but let them be easier for myself. I don't want to have to do a whole bunch of extra. So that was really my primary decision, was to wait until I knew I had the support that I needed to be able to take care of a child. And now I know at the age I'm at now, whether I'm married or not, um, my decision now is my family, all of us are close enough, and we're um, at points in our lives when we all support each other enough and can support each other enough, whether it's emotionally, financially, whatever. So if I decided to just have a kid, I could do that, and I know I have the support I need, versus if I had done it at a younger age and wasn't sure what was happening. So I have the experience now with watching other people's kids, whether they good or bad, cousins, relatives, friends, um, and even the experience with people and being able to talk to people, understand where people are coming from mentally, that kind of thing, and just preparing myself for stuff like that. I have more experience now. So at this point in life, I feel like I'm okay to do that if I just wanted to, whether I'm married or not. But I just, I knew at a younger age, I couldn't do it. I didn't want to do it. And that was my main decision. Um, I'm grateful for my mom and everything she did. Our dad did come back into our lives after we got older, um, which was an awesome thing. I thank God for that. But I just, even with that, I decided I wanted to hold out and see how things worked out for me. You know, to get everything together and find the relationship I wanted to have, and that God wanted me to have. And once that happened, then I could take those other steps. But that was my decision.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. Excuse me. Let's jump into Dr. Tacy.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Casey Rogers, and I'm so excited to be here. I work in education up in Northern California, so near Sapphire, but just a few more hours north. And I'm so excited to be here this evening. And I simply echo what Sapphire and Andrea have spoken about. The decision to not have children has been very intentional in my life. Wanting to have a college education, and I was privileged and blessed enough to be able to achieve graduate degrees. I have multiple graduate degrees, and so my process was more around finishing school and then kind of looking around and examining, okay, I'm gonna work over here. Okay, I'm not married yet. I don't have children yet. Let's go back to school. And so I would just keep going and keep going until I felt as if, being single now is a time to go to school, to achieve as much as I can. And I would always tell myself so that when the time comes, I'd be done with school, I could be married and have my family and move on. And I think I think Sapphire, you said something just about certain prerequisites being in place, right? There's a certain scenario that I was expecting. I do not want to be a single parent. I would prefer to be married when I have my children, and that criteria just has not yet been met. And so until then, I find myself working and, taking multiple opportunities to advance my career and really investing in myself. And then I'm 36, I'll be 37 this year. And, oh, okay, you go to the doctor and you get the questions. What do you want to do? How old are you? Okay, do you want this? And that's really when you're faced with, well, I don't know, you're really trying to decide what your options might be at that point. And so I'm just thankful to be on this panel and to be able to have this conversation with you all.
You ladies are all so fantastic, and I appreciate the contribution and you being here. And the reason why I've had this conversation, I wanted to start this conversation or discussion initially, is because I have lots of friends who are over 30, and to me, it seems like an amazing thing because you're over 30, and for me, because I had a small child many years in my late 20s, early 30s, I had to make different choices. And I'm like, you have freedom to move about, and you can still do things with children, of course. But for me, like, I knew that I needed the kind of stability in my village, and, I needed to be stationary. Even when moving from California to Georgia, I had at least one person in place where I was like, okay, if something go down, this person is going to have my back. And so in doing all that, I was watching something on YouTube called The Financial Diet, and it's this millennials that talk about finances and keeping things together, and they were talking about being over 30 and child free. Now, this person, the individual that was having the initial discussion, was coming from a different place. She was coming from a place of privilege, white woman, 32, husband, and she's making the choice to remain child free biologically. She said that she may take children, she may adopt later on, but right now she's doing, different things. And I just wanted to start off the conversation in regards to legacy, because she spoke about the nuclear family and what it means. So, you got the husband and the wife, you got the 2.5 kids, you got the little dog, you got the picket fence, and that dream. And so when we talk about prerequisites that are in place, I think that even if that isn't really what we desire, it's kind of what we desire. That's why we have big weddings. That's why we, have these massive celebrations and feed other people and pay exorbitant amounts of money. And no shade. Hey, I had a big wedding too when I got married years ago. It is what it is. But we're doing all these things to be able to live the dream. It could be the American dream, the African dream, the Haitian dream, the whatever dream, right? But we're living the dream because it's something that you see all over. And then we think about what it'll mean. So it's legacy, it's security. Someone will take care of me when I'm old, etc. But if you look at statistics, like 50% of people that are in these assisted living or advanced age elderly facilities, no one comes to visit them. No one. Only the people that work there, though, that's their family. Those are their caretakers, and that's probably under a conservatorship or guardianship, the state, etc. So when we talk about, I want to hear your ideas about legacy. Like, what do you feel about legacy? And Dr. Tacey, you can go ahead and start.
It's a great question. And I have thought about it often, right? Because I have one sibling, a sister. Hi, Joya. And there is just the two of us. We're, both ladies. And I think about, if neither of us have a biological child, then literally the bloodline of my parents, it ends with us. Like, that's it. Right. And I wonder, what does that mean? You mentioned the discussion around adopting a child. Yes, I've thought about that also, and I kind of put a time limit on. If I'm not married by 40 and I have no child, I'll adopt a child. Like, that's literally what I've said out loud. But then at the same time, you do want to have yourself reproduce yourself. And I do think that adopting a child, you can still replicate yourself and replicate your family in that child. And at the same time, that desire still exists to want to carry birth and raise a child. And so I feel like it's a fact that if I don't have children, my sibling doesn't have children, that that it just kind of ends, and I just wonder about that. And I perhaps it's a area of prayer, because then what becomes my purpose of being here, right? If it's not to reproduce my parents and reproduce my grandparents, then perhaps it is something else. And I think that's, well, I'll speak for myself. That's something that I grapple with. Should I be refocusing myself into, hey, let's, find your purpose, do what you're called to do, as opposed to being stuck in this, I need to have a child. So it's a kind of a battle in the mind, I would say, for me.
What about you, Sapphire?
For me, I definitely agree with Dr. Tracy. I always think about legacy. I'm one of those people who are like real spiritualistic, and I think about, like my ancestors and all of that. And I just really think all the time, like, what is it going to be for if you don't have children, if you don't have anyone to carry on this? And I mean, I've always dreamed about having children. I've been that little girl with the Barbies and the baby dolls, and I have names for my children. I know how many I want. I definitely want children. It's just like Dr. Tracy, like Andrea, like we're saying, we just have that certain picture. And I know it's like different because I've been married, like I said, a few times, and I'm not with any of them anymore. But even that in itself was a little heartbreaking, because you're in that situation. You think, okay, now I'm in this situation. Okay, yeah, maybe I might, can relax, and I will have those children. You think about what they look like, and then the situation doesn't, pan out. And so I do think about that all the time. And so I really throw myself in more into my career. I'm thinking, well, if I don't end up having children or whatever, I'll let my legacy be my career, my music, just the creative things that I can leave behind that will still keep on living, my spirit through that, and, it's just kind of sad. Sometimes I'm not going to lie that I don't get sad. Because it's hard to just kind of like talk about sometimes, but, just being the fact that I have been married before. A lot of women just having to experience that, but being married, thinking not once, twice, 3 times, something is going to be something and it's just not, then you kind of lose the hope, you know what I mean? So I find myself struggling with even believing that I might even have that. So then I kind of start thinking, well, I do still want to have kids. So maybe I might just, be a single mother. Maybe I might just do that just so I can have, my children and stuff. So, it's always that pressure and those things in mind. And like, I'm the youngest out of my siblings with my mother, and me and her just grew up together, so I'm out here by myself too. So a lot of times I just be like, you don't have anyone else, so maybe you want to chill, so it's all those things, just run through your mind,
And I can definitely understand that it can be difficult, just fighting against like your own sadness, your own circumstance, wanting or having dreams and then the dreams being delayed. But then you also spoke about, again, creating legacy through other things. So work, the work that you're doing, especially music, you know, the music can live on forever. We're listening to people that have passed on years and years and years ago. And when we go into musical history and things like that, it's opportunities to be able to like unearth, you know, some of the gems that we've had, and it can be created through other things. But I do understand that feeling of not being connected to something that looks like you, like Tasty said. I want something to kind of, you know, I can look down and say, oh, those are my eyes, or that's my cheekbones, or my teeth, or whatever. You know, I know that that can be difficult. We're gonna jump to Drea, and then we're gonna hear from Shonda.
Okay, so I agree completely with everything you guys said because those are real struggles. Like those are real thoughts, real feelings. I have. In fact, one of my close friends right now, she's in her early 40s, and she's been like really stressed out about not having a kid. And so she and her fiance have been working, trying to take these vitamins and do whatever they can do to for her to get pregnant. And you know I as much as I want to be positive for her, I'm praying for her for sure, but I'm like, at some point, sis, like you're gonna have to be okay with, if this is not meant to be, it's not meant to be. And me even talking to her about that, I had to realize that even for myself, because I'm not far behind her. I'm literally, what, 2, 3 years younger than she is. And that's something I really had to think about. Like, man, am I okay with not having kids at some point in my life? Am I okay with not having that, like you said, that legacy of being able to, like you said, see your smile in a little kid, or in a in a grown, graduating from college. Am I okay with not having that experience, being pregnant and seeing yourself blow up like a balloon, and you know what I mean? Everybody saying, "Oh, you're so cute," that kind of thing. And am I okay with not having those experiences if it comes down to the wire, where it's just not meant to happen? And to be honest, I have my ups and downs with it. Like, I want, like, my parents only had 3 girls, so we are their legacy. If none of us have kids from this point on, that, like she said, that's it. And I have a aunt. Well, she passed on recently, but she was my grandmother's sister. She didn't have any children. And when she passed, though, she didn't have a legacy of her own children, but she did leave a legacy where there were a lot of people, even though it's COVID, there were a lot of people at her service talking about how much they appreciated her because she was a teacher. She was an educator. And so, they talked about how, she was strict and she was stern, but, they had so many life lessons just from being in her class and, talking to her and interacting with her. And that made me realize, like, okay, even if I don't have my own, as long as I'm leaving something, because I'm a musical artist too. But even if I don't have my own, as far as my own children, there is some kind of legacy I can leave behind, whether it's just being good to people, or my singing, or whatever the case may be. There is a legacy I can leave behind. I just have to make sure that I'm really okay with that. And that is it. I can say one day, yeah, I'm good. I'm not tripping. But then another day I'm like, oh, that baby is so cute. I want one, and then I get to this whole, like, oh my God, like, okay, I got a few more years. I got time, right? And then I'm like, time is running out. What the heck? So, it's a constant struggle for us. So I agree, and I appreciate the point of views here, because I share them. I know my sisters do too, because we've had conversations about them. But it's a struggle.
No, totally. Thank you for sharing, Shonda. What's your take on all this?
First, I just want to say thank you to all the ladies for being vulnerable. Like, this is a really tough subject to talk about, especially if you don't have children and you do want children. The other thing is that I hear what everyone is saying, and I'm glad that everybody knows what they want, because for me, and anything that I share tonight, it's a perspective, and it's just my perspective. That legacy begins when you start to interact with people. You are leaving a piece of who you are everywhere you go, every time you interact with someone. And so having children as a part of your legacy, if that's something that you want to do, then be very intentional about it. Whether it is talking to people who do have children, talking to people who don't have children, and figuring out, hearing their perspective, hearing their experiences, because they may impart something to you that may spark something that you didn't think about, that'll move you in a different direction. But also to continue to remain open. I'll be 44 this year, and my children are 19 years apart. And after my first son, probably a year before I got pregnant, I was told I would never have children again. They wanted to give me a hysterectomy, and that if I did want to, because I said no to that, that I would need to go to a fertility clinic. Well, I didn't have to do any of that because I have a 5-year-old today. So always be open. Always. If it's something that you want, then manifest it. Write it down. Make it a part of how you believe, how you think. And if people approach you and they, make you feel some type of way, it's okay in that moment to even, give them a different perspective, to maybe help them for the next woman that they approach, not to approach them that way. Because people look at me and the first thing they look at is my ring finger. They did that the entire time I was pregnant. I've never been married. I'm a single mother of 2 children by 2 different men. And I'm not ashamed of that. It is what it is. This is my life. This is where I am. And I love both of my children. But they ask questions. Why did you wait so long? Or, oh my God, why did you do that? And I'm like, because I wanted to. Because that is where my life took me. And they don't know that I waited a long time because I wanted to attach to my first son and my own history and my own trauma. So nobody knows anything. And to keep that in mind when people are telling you things that are triggering you, that are triggering those emotions, triggering you to feel bad, triggering you to wonder, am I going to have a legacy? Is somebody going to be here for me? Absolutely. If that's what you want. If that's what you want, then it'll happen. Technology now, you can freeze your eggs, let somebody else carry it for you. Like, it's so many different things that you can do, including adopting. My aunt was told she would never have children. So she adopted too. And then she had 5 of her own.
Oh, okay, Auntie.
So anything is possible. Like,
and
I'm looking at a doctor, 2 musicians, a radio host. Anything is possible. I have a master's degree, but I don't have a high school diploma, and I have 2 children, and it goes on. We are out here working this magic, and you just
yes.
keep doing it.
And that's the thing, is like, I feel like sometimes I feel like there's a part of destiny that is woven into why we haven't reached certain marks or pivotal moments or milestones in our lives, because we needed to be open to other things. I've seen this happen many. I've watched a million reality shows, a million, true stories, lifetime movies, etc., and heard people's personal stories about how they couldn't have children, husband and wife, so they had the situation right or down, and they're like, we've been trying for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, and they adopted children, and then all of a sudden her womb opened up. Just then the kids just start coming. But I feel like it was because she was a funnel for those kids to be loved in the way that they needed to be loved, and they needed to come to her first before she could have her own. Because I've talked to my friends that don't have children. I'm like, have you thought about fostering? Have you thought about adoption? And a lot of times they'll say no, because, well, they was like, well, I thought about it, but I just want to have my own, which again, I understand. But there's opportunities too in those options to be able to do the other things too. And I know some people that, I'll use a fictional depiction, but this is us. a part of their current storyline. They were talking about, it's the triplets that are born, one baby, and then one of the babies dies. One of the baby passes away. A little baby was left at a fire. A little black baby. These are, Caucasians, and a little black baby was left at a fire station the same day. They become a family. The father hears about it, and he's like, "Well, we lost a son, so now we got a son. What's the problem?" He just feel like he ain't pushing it out. So he's like, "Yeah, just let's just add one back." And she like, "Sir." Anyway, they grow up. He feels different, etc. And so when he has his first two children, he's coming home from the hospital talking to his wife, and he's like, "Hey, let's have a son." She's like, "I just evicted this baby out of my body. Are you talking about having another one?" Because this to him, he's like, "Well, I want to look into my son's eyes now. Well, she has my eyes, but I want this. And then they end up eventually adopting somebody, a little girl, after they had fostered. And then she ends up being the first one that's pregnant. And legacy is still continued, but this baby won't have his eyes, but he'll have the teachings, the vacations, the stories, the everything. And I feel like it's an opportunity for us to continue to stay open to possibilities, um, and things like that. So for me, again, I'll talk about me because I can't really talk about nobody else. I had a child at 21. She's 17, about to be 18 in July. Feels like yesterday. Um, Tacey and Shonda were both around the time that she was born. See her like creep up and get older, all that stuff. Um, and so for me, like I desire to be married again, etc. Right? And so I'm meeting a lot of men who are 40 and over who do not have children, and they're like, "I really would like a baby." I'm like, "Sorry, what?" Huh? And so for me, I'm having a different type of conversation and conflict within myself. I'm like, we could travel, or we could, like stay out all night every night. We could start 12 businesses and not feel like we're neglecting a little baby. He's like, or we could have babies. So for me, on the other side of the spectrum, I would be literally starting my life over again. And so I feel like we all come to these crossroads. I said all that to say we all come to these crossroads where we feel like, okay, and for me, I'm 39. So if I have a child now, first of all, I'm starting over. And then, because again, I remember all that stuff. And then before I was young enough to, I'm running, laying on the floor, getting her out of the cabinets. She used to be on pots and pans, that kind of stuff. But I would be starting over with a whole new situation. And that's it's something that, you got to wrestle with it. But let's talk about validation, because again, with all that, if my dude is like, "I'd love to see a baby with your smile," and all that stuff, and so it's cute. You like, but there are things that would stop me. So thinking about who we are to our families, to our friends, to the public, how important is validation in these situations? Because when you have your baby Sapphire, they're gonna be like, "Oh my God!" Like, is it tell me what you're going to be feeling when all of this goes down, or how it's going to happen? Like, how important is validation in this scenario?
For me, I'm like a person, I don't really care what people think. So it's not a validation, I guess, factor as far as what other people think, but just, feeling happy that I accomplished what I wanted, if it happens for me, and, or as she was saying earlier, to manifest it when it happens for me, then I will feel validated that I'm finally, getting, what everything that I ever wanted. But as far as like people, what they think, or, "Oh, finally, girl," or any, I don't care about any of that, honestly. I guess the only person I might feel a little bit something is just my mother, just because the fact, she's gonna be a grandmother. With her, my brother, he's the oldest in our family, and he's the only one that has grandchildren. But of course, like, unfortunately, he's like been out in the streets and that, so she doesn't have a very close relationship with her grandchildren. And my older sister, she's almost about 50 if she's not. She chose not to have children at all. So she doesn't have any. And so my mom's kind of like looking at me like, "You're my only hope." So I guess I would feel a little validated, for giving her, what her dream of, being that on hand's grandmother.
What about you, Drea? What do you feel about validation? Like, do you are like even though like no one is like audibly like yes, validate me, but like would it feel good if there was like your mom was like, all right now, Drea done had her baby, you know, I got me a little grandbaby to, you know, what how important is that to you?
Oh Lord. Well, okay, so I've actually had this conversation with my mom. Because I've also felt like, you know, there might just be a time where I just decide I don't want to have any kids. And I've asked my mom, like, is that okay with you? Like, not because I feel like she'll be disappointed or anything, but just because I know that's also an experience for her, right? Like to have a grandkid, you know, and to be able to, you know, of course she still has opportunities with my sisters. But since I'm the oldest, it's kind of like, oh yeah, you're the one, you know. So I've had this conversation with her, and she says she's fine either way. Um, so that actually helps me with whatever decision I make, but it's still kind of like, I think about,
Do you believe
I,
her? Do you believe her when she says that?
I I do, but I also feel like it would be a bonus for her because even if it's not me, she does have two other kids that can help her out with that.
All right.
So if it's not me being the driving factor, then one of my sisters can pull it through. And she'll be like, "Oh, it's okay. Don't worry. I got three other or two other opportunities." But you know, I don't. I think she would be okay with it. I just I don't. I mean, it's not a major thing to me because I know she's okay either way.
Mm-hmm.
And she would really be the only one. She and my sisters would really be the only ones I would be concerned about. But I know we're all kind of okay with our situations, you know. And I count that as a blessing because I don't have to hear I would get frustrated about because even with my friends, I get frustrated with the when you gonna have a baby? What are you waiting for? And it's like, man, you guys just go sit down. You know, have several. What's that phrase? Have several seats. Okay, you know, everybody has their time. It's that I'm not. It's not my time yet. You know, but you running out of time, so it's that other type of validation. You're right, Sapphire. I agree. I don't care about all that. Y'all go sit down because y'all not gonna deal with it when it comes, right? So, but I know my sisters, my mom, they will be there and they'll help if you know if and when that time comes. So I would be okay either way. Sorry, I know that's a long answer, but you know some of this stuff
You're
you
good.
got to really kind of dig into it because people don't understand, you know, and you kind of have to break it down. So yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, Tacey, give us your take on validation.
Oh, I agree with my sisters here. I also had that conversation with my parents. It had to be maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. You know, if I don't have kids, how will you feel? And I remember my dad was like, "Oh, good, then you don't have to deal with them." Like, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So I after that point, I didn't. It wasn't on. Uh, like it was. I wasn't thinking about it every day, and I think that now, being back, working back in the school building, you know, educators, it's a prime job, prime career for parents, right? Holidays, winter break, Easter break, like there's so much time off, ample time off to be with the children, right? And if you take care of your responsibilities, your day might end at 4. Like, you know what I mean? And so it's a rarity to be not married, no children in education. And that's the question. I remember when I first started in my current role about 2 years ago. Oh, do you have kids? How many kids? Where do your kids go to school? Excuse me. You know what I mean? And it's challenging to be faced with those questions often, right? You never meet it. You meet someone at the school down the street, you meet someone at the district, and it's all over again, right? Because all their kids go to the school in the system, and it's I will say it's triggering for me. All of those videos online, the birthing story, like I can't watch any of that. I don't even go because it's challenging to not have the experience. And at the same time, if today the question would be posed to me, do you want to have your kid tomorrow? I would say no. Like, I don't even know. You know what I mean? I'm not ready, but I'm ready, but I'm not ready, but I'm ready. You know what I mean? And I feel like my parents are extremely supportive. I have not felt pressure. Um, and then there are these outside encounters that may force me to face it, right? I'll be scrolling online and birthing. I have to like mute I seriously cannot even deal. Like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear about it. And then I don't know if it's FOMO. I don't know if I just want to experience it or so that's why I feel like I still have some processing to do, right? Like I think about you, Sapphire, and to be married, like I just wonder what those conversations are like. Like, okay, we're not gonna have kids right now, or I just wonder. That's all.
And was there? Did you have that conversation, Sapphire?
Well, actually, I have had the conversation. My first husband, we got married very young, about 20 years old. So we had that conversation. We wanted children, all of that. You know, we were very church oriented, and you know, just that whole family dream thing, right? But we just never got pregnant at all. And I mean, I wasn't really trying either. You know, I just was just like, okay, gotta go. And if it happens, it happens. I'm just like one of those kind of people. Like, if it happens, it's meant to. If it doesn't, it's not. I'm not gonna make it intention right now because we're so young, you know. But it only lasted about a year. And so then 7 years later, I got married again. My second husband had a son already, and he had a lot of baby mama drama and stuff like that. So it just wasn't an appealing situation to bring a child into the situation until he resolved what he had going on with his son and his baby mother. He hadn't even seen him in a while, and he kind of wanted to do that thing where, oh, we can have the baby, then I won't feel like this. And this is like, no, you know, I don't want my child to be brought out of feeling a need because you're having a void for your son that's missing, because it wouldn't even be the right dynamic. You know, I'm all about different energy and stuff like that. I just like things to come out in the right energy so they can produce the right things and things like that. And it just was like a hard thing, you know, a little bit. But we did, you know, settle on that. And again, like, it didn't last very long. He ended up being, I know it was a lot of my personal stuff, but he ended up having mental illness or whatever. And it just got into a situation where I had to get a restraining order and stuff. We got our marriage annulled. And then my third husband, he had 3 daughters. Again, baby mama drama. So it just kind of like a situation where I just was like, yeah, it's not wise, you know, to bring in a baby in a situation like this until we have these things figured out. And it was very early in our marriage, and me already being married before and having those situations, just kind of having those experiences, just knowing, no, this is not the climate and time for it. And so we definitely had those conversations. Sometimes they could be difficult. Even he didn't want a baby as well. And I was like, maybe in a few years, you know what I mean? Like, let us have our time. Let us get to know each other. Let you resolve your issues with your baby mother and your children that you have already, so that, you know, when we do have a child, it can be brought into the right dynamic, a right kind of family group, and they can know their brother or sisters and things like that. So yeah, it's definitely been some tough times for me in regards to that.
Now, I wanted to talk about a couple celebrities that we know that are child free. I see I have a comment from Nyla. She says that she's so proud of all you ladies. If you're not ready for it, don't. Sometimes waiting is the best answer. And I 100% agree. And again, having children for other people is never the answer. So definitely, I applaud you, Sapphire, for saying, hey, I see what you're going through with other people. Is this something I want for my life? And making realistic decisions. Because I've seen the latter, the alternative where people are just like, well, he wanted a baby, so and my mama said, by 25, I need to have this and this and this happening and da 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 da. And I feel like it warps our mindset, and then we buy into those things whether they're actually good for us or not. You know, my grandpa went to this school, my auntie went to this school, so I should go to this school. But it's a medical school, and you want to be a softball coach. It's not those one of these things is not like the other, and we force ourselves to fit into these spaces. Um, Nyla also says, or thinking or having a baby thinking it will save your relationship. Oh, also not the answer. Said, child, that's for the birds. 100%. Trying to save, or or people even in situations, and my bad if I'm talking about you. I don't think I am, but whoever's listening or watching, or staying in a relationship for the kids, like your kids know y'all don't like each other. you know, all of that stuff is wear and tear on everybody, not just you. You're like, well, we covering it up, and they don't really know. They hear y'all arguing through the walls with the door closed. They see you snatching stuff out his hand or whatever else to be able to salvage something. Or again, like Nyla said, say having a baby to kind of mend you or bond you, and he might be excited or happy, like, ooh, look at that little baby, look at that little, whatever. And then it doesn't do anything when he feels the weight of responsibility. If he already was a bad money manager, that's only going to exacerbate his poor money management. If he was already abusive, when he's stressed out about something, that will exacerbate. What if that carries over to the child that you have together, etc.? It can go on and on and on. And also, Nyla says, thank you, Nyla, for your comments. But it's teaching the kids unhealthy patterns. And so, also, again, Sapphire, thank you for your transparency and sharing the situations. You're like, I see unhealthy situations that he's already tied to, already got kids where these things just aren't okay. And you're like, do I want more of the same for my life? Is this the best thing? And a lot of times, we're so afraid to make other people unhappy that we sacrifice our well-being, our health, our mindset, etc., to jump into that. I want to hear from you, Shonda, but let me jump in real quick. Some child-free women that we know. Um, and again, I've heard many people say many things about them in regards to this topic, but it's interesting to me about the things that they've been able to accomplish. And that as much as beautiful as child birth is and the gift that it is having children, is also a gift in cultivating other things. So a very famous one that we've heard a lot about, especially in January, was Kamala Harris. She has stepchildren, but she is child free. She didn't get married. I think she was like 51 or 52, something like that, or it was her late 40s, early 50s that she got decided to get married, and he already had kids, so she wasn't even changing diapers or nothing. She was like, let's go to the college game, let's do that kind of stuff. We got Chelsea Handler. She's a comedian, and she made a conscious decision not to have children. We have Dolly Parton, which I did not know. I thought Dolly Parton had kids. I was not. I found that out today. I was like, oh, okay, Dolly. But her career was her baby, and she decided to devote her life to that. Another one I didn't think about, Betty White. I didn't know that Betty White didn't have children, and she's like in her late 90s, right? But she said that she knew that as much as she loves kids, and it doesn't. And the thing is, I think that people equate um you not having children for whatever the reason to you like somehow like hating children or being ready to like cook them in the stove like Hansel and Gretel or something like that. Like you automatically get this thing, this stigma connected to you. And again, in that initial YouTube video that I watched from the Financial Diet, they were talking about women that don't have children. People will call you hostile, aggressive. You're considered cold or unfeeling because woman and mother have been merged and made synonymous for some reason, which is so weird. And if you aren't a mother, then you're somehow less than a woman, which is absolute lunacy, as we know. We got one more person, Condoleezza Rice. She was in the cabinet for George W. Bush. And then Oprah. And she's been overly criticized, constantly criticized for not having children. And she said that, and because they were giving quotes from the women, it was like Liza Minnelli, Katharine Hepburn. There was a lot of women that are celebrities that did not have children for whatever reason. And Oprah said that she felt like if she had kids, that her kids would be on an Oprah-like show talking about her. But because she would be devoted so much to the Oprah show and but it becoming a success. And like I don't know I can't remember who said it, but being an educator Oh, you were talking about Andrea. You were talking about your aunt being an educator, and she had children. They just weren't from her biologically. Dr. Tacey, you are an educator. You're in education. Think about all the young lives that you've impacted just from being in education. And you may have some young little girl that's looking up to you and is like, "Wow, I love everything she does." It may be how you dress, it may be the way you speak, it may be something, and we don't realize the imprints that we make. And then as entertainers, Dre and Sapphire, of course, you are making an impact. Every live show, every EP you release, every time you get the opportunity to be able to do something and touch somebody's heart and mind. I think about even again this conversation. There were so many people. The reason why we ended up having this forum here is because I wanted people in Atlanta to come in, and I do have some coming in this Wednesday. But I wanted people in Atlanta to come in and talk and have the discussion. But there were so many women that reached out to me from across the country that were like, "Hey, I'm over 30. My friend sent this, tagged me in this post. Hey, I'd like to be a part of the conversation." So this won't be the only one, but it just was an impactful thing. So Kamala Harris, Oprah, Chelsea Handler, Dolly Parton, Betty White, Condoleezza Rice, all women who are extremely accomplished. We know their names, and they are child free, and it's just something to think about because I think again we skip out on things, or we place value on certain things and devalue other things based on what people feel like should be right or proper, and it's just we got to think a different way. So Shonda, let me know what you're thinking. What's been on your mind with everything that's being said so far, and we're almost done. But I just want to just hear what you have to say.
Well, I'm just really thankful to be a part of this conversation because I think it's really important that we talk about everything that's been brought up today because society puts the pressure on us first. Society says that we should be married by a certain age. If you're a woman, like you said, automatically that, means that you should be a mother. But I just really love that you mentioned those women who have already built a legacy that don't have any children. Oprah will be known forever. Our children's children will know who Oprah is. Kamala Harris, she'll be known forever. Like everybody will remember these people. A lot of times, it's been my experience. A lot of women that I know, they will have children based off of pressure, wanting to make up for, love that they didn't receive. They want to give a child something that they didn't have. Those aren't good reasons to have children. This is my own perspective. Those aren't good reasons to have children because you don't know what your child's personality is going to be like or how you're going to be as a mother. You just don't know. It's nothing that you can ever really prepare yourself for completely, but grounding yourself in who you are, knowing what you want, I think will give you a nice, good perspective as to where you want your life to go so that whatever decision you make is a solid one and that you're okay with it no matter what anybody else says. And if you are having issues, if you are being triggered by certain things, certain comments, really sit down with yourself and process where that may be coming from so that you can resolve it and heal it so that when those comments and things are made, you could just keep moving along because these women that, Jess mentioned, they had to know where they were going. They had to know who they were because they've been receiving all kind of criticism for many different reasons. And they had to keep jumping over it, keep jumping over it, keep jumping over it to get to where you are. And I also want to go back to when we talked about women who finally had children after adopting or whatever happened. Mental health is associated sometimes with that. Stress, we underestimate the power of stress and what it can do to us mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. So now that I have a baby, I can relax. And that's usually what happens. You relax and you let it go. And then your body is able to take on because giving birth and being pregnant, that's a whole process of your body building another human being. So it has to be ready. But I'm just glad that you ladies know what you want to do. Don't let anybody sway you from those decisions and do research. And when I say research, talk to the why. Why do you want me to have a baby so bad? Tell me why. And get their feedback, because then you'll have a different perspective on why people are applying this pressure. And it's usually about them. It has nothing to do with you. But I applaud you all for the decisions that you've made to, say, hey, I don't want to fit into the box. I'm creating my own box and I'm going to stand on it, live in it, pick it up, put it on my back, whatever I want to do with it. And so, good for you, and keep it up and continue to educate your girlfriends and, family members on how you're feeling and what their comments may be doing, right? Triggering how they might be putting pressure on you, making you feel. But this is a great conversation that we have to continue to have so we can create new cultural norms.
Mm-hmm.
New norms. We need a new normal, and that's what's happening. What worked back in the 70s, 60s, and 80s and 90s, it's not working in 2021. So we're going to create our own normal.
And I feel like that's important because again, we'll get caught up in what everybody else wants for us, and people will call you names or say you're cold or whatever because you're like, no, this is where I'm at. This is, and then you have, and everybody's expressed that they have like maybe one person, like their mom or their parents. They're like, hey, this is somebody that's actually would support me if something happened. Not all these other people that are, again, not going to pay a bill, not going to get up and change a diaper. Like, oh, I was next door and I heard your baby crying. I'm your neighbor coming to knock on it. Nobody ever does that. No one does that. Trust me. No one does that. Your baby was crying. Oh, let me breastfeed for you. First of all, no. But second, don't, no one's going to do that. And so there has to be opportunities. It has to be something that you are really a desire of yours. And then being open and then thinking about how this world is being shaped and how many people just need love in general. And I have a lot of people that I've nurtured that have not been the child that I gave birth to. And they were like mothering relationships. And I'm like, wait a minute, I almost feel like their mama, like, and it was just one of those things that happened inadvertently. It was not on purpose, trust me, I got my own handful, but it was relationships and things like that were fostered or nurtured based on the fact that there was something that I could provide, that I could give in a way. And I feel like being open to those things gives you opportunities too, to be able to just love uh, one another. I have people that are my age or barely younger than me, sometimes older than me. Like, you feel like my mom. I'm like, okay, girl. But it's just one of those things. Now I'm gonna let you go, but I want to talk about one more thing: addressing internal bias. Now, again, a lot of this was spun out of the fact that I'm talking to my friends and I'm like, and I feel like we all have those things where we like, well, if that was my child, da 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 da. I think we've all had those conversations at one point or another in our lives. We see people just doing things that we just would not do. Um, or if I had this or whatever. And for me, I'm like, hey, enjoy yourself. You free. And so for me, and again, also making these insensitive statements to people saying, girl, just had that baby, it's all right, this and that. And I've said those things. And I feel like sometimes as women, we can attack each other more viciously than any man ever could. And we'll reinforce the toxicity and be like, yeah, girl, get that man a baby. He said he wanted a baby. You better give it to him. And it's like, girl, what? No. Help it reinforce the fact that maybe you're not ready mentally, emotionally, things like that. And then if it were to happen unexpectedly, I'm going to support you through it, but I'm never going to make you feel like you owe anybody a baby. That is just not a truth. You don't owe anyone anything, especially a child that, again, you have to cook inside your body. You're building a person. No, you don't owe nobody no baby. Your parents included and everything else. So let's talk about addressing internal bias and then we'll wrap up. So let's start with Dr. Tacey.
Well, it's interesting because yes, I do, want to have children, and I even think about just having children in my life, right? Sapphire, you talked about being in a relationship with someone who has children, and I think those can be beautiful scenarios because I would have an opportunity to nurture and all of that. Because I am not there yet, I tend to be on the side of, oh no, finish school, Anytime I come in contact with someone who's younger than me or trying to accomplish things that I've been privileged to complete, oh no, get that job. Did you apply? I'm on the side of those things can wait. Do you accomplish what you want to accomplish? And then at the same time, internally, it would be nice to have all these things, And so I think I'm biased in that regard because of my path. And so I'm pushing people to, do this, do that, go to college, go out of state, go to HBCU, do all these things because, I was able to experience some of that. I cannot recall. Yeah. But you know what? Now that I think about it, Jess, because I did not have a child young or have that type of situation, I do find myself like, oh, they're having a kid. Oh, what's happening? You know what I mean? It just, it perks my ears up. I've never said anything out loud that would be judgmental or harsh, but I have had the thought like, did you see that post? They're having a kid, you know what I mean? And just it could be out of judgment, right? If I'm, I can't believe they are, But then when I think about what I want, but you want a kid, Tacey, like what is the problem? You know what I mean? Like what is the problem? And so, I don't know what that stems from. And it, like you said, Jess, we could be fostering these same stereotypes like, oh, they're single, they're having a kid, or but when it really comes down to is that people live their lives, and it just, like you said, Shonda, like it just is. And my path is not wrong, and their path is not wrong. It just is. It just is.
That was beautiful. So, Drea, let us know what you think.
Ditto. No, I agree 100%. I do feel though, like sometimes when we hear about, I guess I'll speak for me personally. When I hear, oh, so-and-so is, having a baby or having another baby, and it's like, okay, I know how they are. Why are they having a kid? You know what I'm saying? So it gets kind of like, like frustrating, like, like she don't have no business. But, at the same time, what can I say? I just have to pray that out. Lord, forgive me. Help me get in the right mind frame, because I don't know what they're actually going through and dealing with and all that, and what support they have, that kind of thing. So, I have to check myself. Yeah. So, but the bias is, and I also agree with Dr. Tacey too about the when she mentioned it's kind of like how you were raised a little bit. Like, for instance, as an example, one of the things my grandmother, my dad's mom, was always telling us is, oh, boys only want one thing, and you can't talk to them and don't deal with them, and if they asking you for this, then you just tell them no, and you go get your education, and encouraging you to be successful first and then have your family. And there's nothing wrong with that until you start thinking there's something wrong with that, or start thinking that, you know what I mean? Or you start thinking, okay, well, I'm this far and that's all I want to do. And just forgetting what you really want for yourself. So it does have a lot to do with what you might have been brought up to think or to believe. You just have to get to a point like Shonda said, where you know what you want, and kind of put the other stuff aside, and again, not focusing on what other people think and what other people say, and just, okay, this is really what I want, and then kind of going for that. So again, ditto. And I'm sure I'm gonna ditto what Sapphire says too, because I love all you guys' answers. They apply to us all, I feel like, in some way. So And Shonda too. So my bad.
Okay, Sapphire, let's hear from you.
Well, for me, I feel like it's almost like a dual bias. And I'm talking in particularly with me and my two best friends because they both have children. My best friend I had since 7th grade, she has 6 children. And then my other best friend, she has 2. And they always, have the thing of when you're having the kid type of thing. But then they also come in with this, girl, you lucky. You don't need no kids. You don't need no kids. These kids just don't do it. Don't do it, girl. Don't do it. And it just be like, okay, those are a little weird too. Cause it's like, but I want children. Don't kill it for me just because, you got it now, and then whatever, let me have my experience. When the time comes. But then also I do find myself looking like, because I've known her since 7th grade, right? We grew up in the same neighborhood, all this stuff, so I know her life. So we just like 6 kids, no father in sight, like, what you doing, best friend? But at the same time, it's the same situation. So, like they say, you just gotta kind of just keep yourself in a certain mind frame to just not be judgmental, because either side of the coin, you don't know the situation, and it's just people's lives. It is what it is, and you gotta let people live for them, and just be happy if they're happy.
No, I totally hear you. So we're gonna jump into final thoughts. So we're gonna start with Shonda. We'll do Shonda, Andrea, Tacey, and then Sapphire. And please, once you finish your final thought, let us know how we can find you, connect with you, stay in contact with you, especially if you have music. We want to download your music. We want to buy your music, okay? So I'll start with Shonda, final thoughts, and how we can contact you.
So again, I'm just really thankful to be a part of this conversation. I really appreciate you guys sharing what you've shared, especially about the internal biases. That is huge for me, for people to be able to own and know where they are, because I have them too. Because I tell people, watch who you having a baby by. Do some research on the family, mama, sister, brother, cousin. You want to know, and so I give a lot of unsolicited advice sometimes that I have to be careful about and pull back and find out what they want, because it may be the complete opposite and they may be okay with whatever it is that they get. So thank you for just being transparent. Just thank you for always putting together something amazing. This was a pleasure, and continue to do exactly what you're doing. It's a big thing. One thing that I did think about, Dr. Tacey, when you were talking and you mentioned about you thinking one thing, but then feeling the way that you felt. Sometimes when we give, at least for me, when I give out opinions sometimes to my friends, it confirms my choice for me. And so I didn't think about that until I thought about it. Like, oh, okay, Shonda, so you may need to be okay with where they are and be okay with where you are. And so that is just something to just think about. Yeah. Where can you reach me? In the bed in a few minutes, honestly. My Instagram is A Butterfly's Journey. My email address is cawatson, msw77 @gmail.com. And Jess will always have a line to me. So
True. All right, Drea, let's hear it. Like final thoughts, and then how can we reach you?
Final thoughts. One, I'm very, very glad to have been a part of this, as I think that, like I said earlier, a lot of people just don't understand. They assume one thing. There's a lot of stuff that's said out in the world about people who are single, and then not even just single, but not having kids at a certain age. And I think that a lot of people just don't understand. I know some just try not, they don't care to, because they just want to believe a certain way about people. And that's also detrimental. But when we have these kind of discussions, we can kind of, open some minds and open some doors for people to see why it is the way it is, and for people who are in our situation to be okay with, where they are, and not feel some kind of way or feel condemned because you know, everybody else is doing it and everybody else has this and that and I don't. So um that's so my final thoughts. Okay, what was I saying? Everybody just once you when you meet people like us, you know, don't just automatically think the worst. You know, there are be bold enough, I guess, to you know, to just talk to us and find out why we may be where we're at. If you don't feel like you can do that, then just keep your mouth closed, pray for us, and that'll be that, you know? I mean, let us be, you know, be nice about it. If y'all want to reach me, I am at Lady Ambassador on Instagram, Andrea M. Jackson on Facebook, or you can also find me and music stuff on Stephen Green and the Lifeline page on Facebook. So, Jess, thank you so much for this opportunity. I forgot to say that I'm from California too, so I'm friends with all y'all. What's happening, y'all? But thank you so much for this opportunity and for having this forum, because I was really excited that you were having it, because I think it's a discussion that needs to be had more often. And ladies, it was a pleasure talking to you, listening to your stories, and being able to relate and to meet you all.
Fantastic. Thank you, Drea. And so, Dr. Tacey.
Oh, Andrea, I echo everything that you shared. I'm so thankful for this panel, and it's really comforting to hear similar situations. Our paths have been different, but we are in similar places in our lives, and that is an encouragement to me personally. And as a final thought, I will say that I am very blessed. You know, I try each day to focus on the things that I have and what I have done and what I will do, as opposed to focusing on what I don't have, right? And this conversation was the realization of like, yes, I do think about the things that I don't have, but I do have all these, like, I'm very blessed and I've accomplished a lot, and God has been merciful to me, and I'm thankful for that. And so I feel comfort in knowing that there are ladies like myself who also think about these things in the big picture. And Shonda, I have taken your advice. I have pictures on my board of things that I want. Like, I see these things every day, and I also believe in manifestation. And so that's kind of where I am now. And I'm just thankful for this panel. And it was so nice to meet you, Sapphire and Andrea. Hopefully we will be able to speak again. I am at Wowena, WOWENA, on all platforms, or you can search Dr. Tacey Rogers. And it was so nice to meet you. And just thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, Miss Sapphire, final thoughts.
Thank you again, Jess, for having me. I really enjoyed this panel. Shonda, Andrea, Dr. Tacey, I really enjoyed everyone's commentary tonight. My final thoughts, I'm a little more sassy with my thing. It's just like, mind your business. No. But really, you know, when you meet people, you know, just try to keep some of those more personal things, you know, down until you feel that you have that comfortable relationship with that person where you can have those discussions. Like, these days, people are just so forward with being in your business and stating their opinions. They want to say whatever fly, and it's just not the climate when it comes to a woman's womb. At the end of the day, it's very sensitive either way it goes, whether you can have kids or you can't, or you just don't want to, or just whatever it is. This is not up for discussion in a regular table conversation. But other than that, you can reach me on IG under Sapphire. You see the spelling there, Sapphire Blue. You can also go to sapphireblue.com. I have a link there with all my music links, and also my clothing line is on there, so you guys can check that out. It's called Thickwear, designed for the woman who's not afraid to take up space. It's very bold, athletic wear, very cute. So check that out. And again, Jess, thank you again for having me. Ladies, so good to meet you guys. Hopefully we can keep in touch. And yes, that's it.
And my final thoughts are that this was such an important conversation, and I am so appreciative that you were able to come together also so quickly to be able to be a part of this. You know, we had to move the time around, we had to do a couple other things, but it was a great conversation and an opportunity to be able to share. It's not my exact conversation, but I feel like I'm adjacent to it because there's so many people that I care about that are in this circumstance, and it's not even really a circumstance. It's just what is right now. So it just is. It's just what is, and my heart. And at first I was like, well, you shouldn't talk about it because that's not your exact situation. But I do have a platform that I have the opportunity to be able to share on, and I'm like, then you open up and you start the conversation or continue the conversation with others, and they get the chance to connect and things like that. And so I had to get out of my own head and be able to dive into it a little bit deeper and say, hey, this is an opportunity. And then again, when I put out there the little post like, hey, are you a woman over 30 with no children, or are you child free? Again, the you were just the tip of the iceberg of what who actually contacted me. And they're like, man, I really want to talk about this, or man, I'm not available. Oh, so this won't be the last conversation. This won't be the last time we have a conversation like this. And I want to dive into some other stuff. Of course, I have my radio show, Jesting and Things, on Hits 92.3, the Real Definition of Internet Radio, every single Wednesday night on the Hits 92.3 app. So if you have not downloaded it, what exactly you're doing with your life, I'm not sure, but get it together. There's still time. We have a couple ladies that are going to be talking about the same subject and just revisiting it, but with varied circumstances, but over 30 and child free, and they are willing to have the conversation as well. They'll be in studio with me this Wednesday, so please listen, share, tell your friends about it. I will, like always, I'll be on Facebook Live so you can interact with me, and on IG and ask questions. Tonight we were everywhere. We are on my personal Facebook page, on the Jesting and Things page, on YouTube Live, on Clubhouse, and on IG. So if you didn't listen, you had absolutely no excuse. You was over there being terrible. Get it together. There's still time, like I said. And again, I thank each and every one of you ladies for just opening yourself up. Shonda also for always being willing to lend her expertise and just to be a sounding board, and to be able to, sometimes for whatever reason we don't have access to therapy and things like that, but she always jumps in. She's jumped in and called in on my show and answered questions on the spot and things like that. And I appreciate you, Shonda Watson. Shonda has known me since before I had my daughter, like right before. Tasty known me too, like since we were teenagers. She went to my dad's church. So I think Sapphire is like the newest person to be pulled into my circle. So I met Tasty when I was like 15, 16. Shonda I met when I was 18. I met her at work. Like we worked together like when I was 18 years old. And then like when I became pregnant, she was like, oh girl, you're pregnant. Look, and was married. She came to my wedding and everything. It was crazy. I met Drea singing with Stephen Green on the Lifeline. So I met her about maybe 5 years ago, something like that. And then Sapphire, I just haven't got the chance to meet in person, but we have to make that happen because I'm in California often. So we're gonna make it happen, girl. I'll come to LA. I can visit. So again, such an amazing forum, a necessary conversation. This will not be the last one. And although I have my radio show, but sometimes we need a little more time to do a little bit more, a few other things that are a little bit different, and they're a little bit more expansive in what it is that we want to share. And so I appreciate the opportunity and you gifting me with your presence tonight. It was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. This won't be the last time we talk. And when the world is opened up, maybe we can all, I can come to California and say, unless y'all want to come to Atlanta, but if I can come to California, we can all have lunch, coffee, a sandwich, a nibble, some pretzels. I'm not sure. But I appreciate you. This has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. And we will see you all next time. As a matter of fact, we'll see you Wednesday, 8 p.m. on Hits 92.3. All right. Thank you, ladies. Have a good night.